Hello and welcome to the Post Up Podcast. This is Cyrus Rogers.
And this is Kaunda Chama. How y'all doing?
Well, it's been a great week. You know, the NBA just delivers. It delivers
Always.
drama, excitement, thrills, spills, sometimes fights, sometimes love fests.
Sometimes a few arguments, brotherly love there going wrong,
So we're going to be talking about everything that happened in the past week and a few things that are really big topics that we want to get into. I think, do you want to start with, the drama first?
Okay, let's get that out of the way.
Yeah,
Right?
let's do that. So obviously, if you've been following anything on NBA.com, and we hope you have been, and you've also been looking at what's happening in the NBA in general, Draymond Green and Kevin Durant are clearly buddies on the outs, it would seem, after their confrontation.
Look, Cyrus, let's just call it what it is, right? In every family, even you argued with your brothers, right?
Without a doubt. We're still arguing now.
You know what I'm saying? And I think when I see the Warriors, I think of a situation where they're ready for the three-peat, right?
Yeah.
And they know it's something they can achieve. But there's always the, and then what next discussion. And I think a player with the profile of Kevin Durant, hanging around in limbo, if you will, not making any decisions, not making any proclamations, for his own reasons maybe.
Yeah.
He sort of steals away the limelight from the Warriors as an entity.
Yeah.
Because it's such a great part of the Warriors at the moment.
It's that team.
It's KD, it's Steph, it's Klay Thompson, and then it's him.
Yeah.
So he's part of the big three, if you will.
Yeah. And then you're leaving Draymond out of this, but I understand what you mean.
If you want the big four, we'll give you the big four.
Yeah, those are the original big four.
But when Draymond sits there and thinks, okay, what next? What's happening? Why isn't this guy saying anything? Because nobody's talking about anything apart from him. They're not even talking about the Warriors much. So why doesn't he get the spotlight off him and let's concentrate on the team? And I think that's what caused the whole misunderstanding.
I sort of understand that, right? It's just that obviously we're talking about Draymond Green being combustible, right? That's basically one of the words that people are using.
But that's his nature. That's his nature.
That is him. But that's also kind of destructive because most things that can combust can explode. And explosions aren't necessarily good things. And then we saw that in the
I grew up on the A-team. I know this.
Well, those are just really fun explosions, not necessarily the ones you get in the basketball court. But I think the thing here is, and I don't know if I want to ascribe any blame to anybody, I think that what Draymond did was he went too far.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And I think that the words that he is reported to have been using when he was talking to KD and the things that he said to him were really harsh. Considering that KD was like, I want to win this game. Draymond was like, I want to win at life. So what are you doing after the season's done?
But
you
Cyrus,
have this free agency thing.
There's a place for everything, right?
And I agree with you.
It's like, I'm not going to approach you in the gents and start saying, so about that check you need to sign off,
Whoa, let me finish.
Let's finish this situation. Then you can bring about the discussions around the paycheck or whatever.
And that was the Warriors' viewpoint on this, because that's why Draymond got suspended and fined. Because they said, look, what you're doing is detrimental to the team.
Yep.
You say you're all about team and you're all about family, but what you've done is break up the team, right? And I think that's one of the things that they'll have to deal with. Whether or not KD stays in Oakland or with Golden State is another discussion, and we'll only find that out at the end of the season.
Absolutely.
Whether the Warriors are champions or not is the other part of this story. And that's where the chemistry thing comes in, because are they professional enough to say, you know what, we might have some personal differences here, but on the court we gotta stay in sync. They weren't that good against the Rockets, though.
I was about to ask that, like the game after the blow up, if you will, it wasn't so good.
It came at the perfect time for the Rockets and the worst time for the Warriors.
For the Warriors, yeah.
Right? Because obviously you're missing Steph. You then have this, internal issue. And Klay was terrible in the game against the Rockets. He wasn't even involved in the actual fight. He was just sort of there trying to play peacemaker. Yeah. So the Warriors have got a little bit of patchwork to do, and that really goes all the way from the boardroom through to the coaching staff. But we'll see what happens with that. I think let's go to some of the player movements. And Jimmy Butler moving to the Philadelphia 76ers, that's also a combustible space, a combustible player moving from one place where, things are really, really tough to another way he should be happier. What do you think of the move?
Look, Cyrus, I think it's a great move. First of all, when he joined Coach Tibbs at the Minnesota Timberwolves,
Yeah.
I thought, okay, you're bringing back the old Bulls squad. You got Derrick Rose, you got Taj Gibson, you got Jimmy Butler. This is going to be fantastic. Plus, you got Coach Tibbs. He knows these guys.
Yeah.
He can play well with these guys.
The Timber Bulls.
The
was
Timber
the
Bulls,
phrase,
if you
yeah.
will. But then again, you look at the Timberwolves as they are. They're supposed to be this young, vibrant team, right?
Yeah.
Jeff Teague isn't all that old. You got Karl Anthony Towns, who's a Rookie of the Year winner.
Yeah.
You got Andrew Wiggins, who's a Rookie
Also
of the Year
Rookie,
winner.
yeah.
So you got a Jimmy Butler going there saying these youngsters, right? I'm sure they're able to really be great. Then he goes there, and then you find an Andrew Wiggins who blows hot and cold.
Yeah,
And you're
oh.
like, oh my goodness, today you've got a double-double. Tomorrow you're in single figures, and what's happening here?
Yeah.
Then you got a Karl Anthony Towns, who's got the potential to be a dominant big man.
He
but
really does.
He seems like he lacks that final push, you know? And I think Jimmy Butler, in his wisdom was thinking, I can bring out the best in these guys. And I wasn't there in the background, but I'm
Okay.
assuming he was like, I can bring out the best in these guys. I've got that, I'm that locker room guy. I can rally them up. I can make
So
them
you
go out
think
there
that
and
he was
perform.
trying to light a fire under these dudes,
Absolutely.
and the kindling was wet.
And the kindling was underwater. Cyrus, it was underwater. It was so underwater, it couldn't catch a flame.
Yeah.
And I think that caused a lot of frustration.
Of course.
Because he's looking around saying, you guys are young, and I always hate to go here. And he goes like, you're getting paid X amount of money.
Yeah.
You should be performing like you're getting paid X amount of money. With that, in mind, I think there was a bit of confrontation between Jimmy Butler and
the rest of the youngsters there.
yes.
But why? Why though? Because it's not as if he is the protector of all things Minnesota Timberwolves. And this is the other thing. There was a comment that had been made in the lead up to everything where they were talking about the fact that Jimmy Butler wanted to go to a team that was all about winning. Then you look at the teams that have been brought up in terms of who he wanted to go to, and they weren't teams that were all about winning. So it sort of didn't make sense.
No, Cyrus, but you got to get into his mindset. This is how I understood it.
Yeah.
He wanted to go to a team that has got the potential to win, but lacked a leader, and he was going to be that leader. And I think that's what happened at the Timberwolves. He gets there, and he can see these kids have got potential. These young players have got potential. I need to rally them around me, and we go for that win, or we go deep into the postseason. And what I think he saw from the likes of Cat, from the likes of Andrew Wiggins, everybody from Jeff Teague, he just thought these guys don't seem to have that oomph. And I can't seem to make them have it. So what do I want? Please trade me, because they're going to frustrate me. I was at a Bulls team which was not doing very well and wasn't championship caliber.
Yeah.
So I left there to try and go somewhere in the West, maybe that would go deeper into the postseason, but still I'm seeing the same problem. So find me another place.
And I sort of get that, but I think that's also kind of an indictment on Coach Tibbs. Because in essence, isn't he saying, here I am doing your job, trying to motivate these kids, right? And nothing seems to be working. But I think that besides the issues in Minnesota, he goes to a Philadelphia 76ers team that seems to be almost, in a way, almost a carbon copy of Minnesota.
Far from it.
No, but hear what I'm saying. A really, really dominant big man who's young.
Yes.
A young up-and-coming wing player who can actually do some damage.
Yeah.
Youth team.
Yes.
Where he is supposed to bring a sort of mature experience to it. It's just that obviously the big difference being that Philadelphia, the guys are fired up.
And they want to win.
And Ben Simmons, they look like they want to win. I don't think Andrew Wiggins or Karl Anthony Towns go into any game thinking, nah, I'm keen to lose today. I just think that sometimes they might not be as motivated to win as other people want them to be.
That's the problem, Cyrus. That's why, he felt like he had to leave. Jimmy felt like he had to leave. You cannot tell me you would put Karl Anthony Towns up against Joel Embiid and expect Karl Anthony Towns to out-muscle him or out-hustle Joel Embiid.
In the current iteration of either of those players, no, I would not expect that. And I get it.
Even with the different positions, I'm just going to work on size here. Andrew Wiggins versus Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons wins any day of the week.
Yeah. No, I get you. Totally.
JJ Redick, these guys want to win. You see, it was just unfortunate. The Celtics were just too much for them last season.
Yeah.
But this is a team that wants to win. And I think having a guy like Jimmy Butler on that squad, a guy who's been into the postseason before, an all-star, You know, I know Joel's an all-star too now, but he's an all-star. He's seasoned.
Yep.
He's the kind of guy I think who can take the 76ers deep into the postseason.
I have to agree with you. I think that Jimmy Butler is the kind of piece that they definitely needed. Because the other thing for me was, and I always ask this question, who was going to take the last shot in a tight game for the 76ers before Jimmy Butler was there? Because Ben Simmons is not a jump shooter.
No.
Joel Embiid has tried to take those shots. But the problem with that is that when you put the ball in the hands of a big guy, teams know that all they have to do is try and double team him and get a stop.
Absolutely.
Jimmy Butler is a slippery kind of character. He can shoot well. He obviously defends well. That's why he's one of the best two-way players. But he's got that killer instinct too. So you put that on that team, and with the right sort of setup behind him, and I think that everything can work. They do have their deficiencies, the 76ers.
Of course.
I think they traded away a couple of pieces that had become really important to them.
Look, especially Saric.
Dario Saric
was an important piece. I think he was a great, front court player, and I think, but they had no choice. You got
to give up something.
Yeah, you don't get a Jimmy Butler without giving up something.
Exactly.
Even if he wanted to leave himself.
Exactly.
But you saw the Timberwolves were playing their cards very close to their chest, and they had to give up some good pieces in order to get him.
And I guess the other thing the Timberwolves were saying is we were happy to trade if it was generally for something that we felt was worthwhile and outside of the Western Conference, right? And I think that's what they get with this. So let's look at how the 76ers should work with Butler. Him at the two guard, right? He gives you really good defense when you're looking to try and shut down teams and try to stop them from scoring on you. But he also is such a good option. And it isn't an accident that Joel Embiid picks up his first triple-double of his career when Jimmy Butler joins the team. Because now he's able to pass to people who will score. And one person in particular, Jimmy Butler.
Absolutely. No, Cyrus, I think this is something that will shake up the East.
Yeah.
If not the league in general. Because the Philadelphia 76ers have been coming for like 3 seasons, if you will. They've been coming. They've just been getting better with every season. Adding, it's a pity Markelle Fultz didn't work out as good as they expected.
Yeah.
But had he worked out, can you imagine now like 110% Markelle Fultz playing alongside of Jimmy Butler?
That's true.
It would be a whole different story. Because you could use Markelle Fultz as an option to Ben Simmons even if you wanted to, now that they've got a Jimmy Butler who can play at that two guard.
And I think one of the critical things in this particular conversation, right, has to come down to, we're not saying Markelle Fultz has been given up on.
No.
We're just saying that he's not at the level that the Sixers have needed him to be at.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a confidence thing. He has the yips. His shot is just all over the place. But there are other players who are out there doing things without a shot. So you've got to try and find a way to make it work. And when you look at the Eastern Conference, you've got a Raptors team that are leading the pack there who look solid. They look really, really good. You've got a Milwaukee Bucks team that are also fired up, led by Giannis Antetokounmpo, one of our favorite players.
Yep.
Then you've got the Pacers behind them, the Celtics behind them. Oh, they're basically neck and neck with the Celtics, the Pacers. And then you've got the Sixers behind them. So it's really quite congested at the top of the Eastern Conference.
Absolutely.
And I think that Jimmy Butler could be that guy who gets a little bit of separation. Do you think the Sixers have it in them to push for the number 1 seed even?
Well, look, there's a very fired up Raptors squad there who've got another one of the top two-way players in the league in Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
And the likes of Fred VanVleet are having great seasons. Kyle Lowry's having a great season. Pascal Siakam having a great season. You can see a bit of the old Serge Ibaka coming through. So you got to be very careful with the Toronto Raptors if you want to end up tops. The Milwaukee Bucks, I think they could go toe-to-toe with the 76ers. Even the Pacers, maybe even the Celtics if they don't get it together, if you will, in time. So the second spot, I'd give them the second spot.
Do you think that the Sixers will have the second spot and get that ahead of the Celtics?
If the Celtics don't come together, what I'm seeing with the Celtics, and you've heard some sentiments in the media coming from Kyrie Irving, saying that there's a bit of veteran leadership missing on the squad. If they don't get it together, they could lose that second spot. And the Sixers are ready to get it. With a guy like Jimmy Butler on their squad, if they follow his leadership, I'm telling you, they're ready to get it. I'm not saying I'm guaranteeing a second spot.
No.
It's not easy to attain.
You sound pretty convincing.
Look, the pieces are falling into place, Cyrus. The pieces are falling into place.
And this is the other thing about it, is that Jimmy Butler's got a good mid-range, right? So he gives you inside scoring. but he also gives you a bit of a jump shot. JJ Redick is really the kind of guy you want when you need 3-pointers in a game. But it's just the stuff they've given up, and I think this is where you have to start looking at the horses for courses, because the Toronto Raptors have got a good squad. Their starting five is good. It's also interchangeable, and they've got Kawhi, but they've got a fairly deep bench. You then look at the Celtics. Their starting five, top notch, probably the best starting five in the Eastern Conference when they're on fire. Their bench also fantastic and quite an asset to them. It's when you start looking at the other teams, like the Pacers, who they've also, like, and your phrase of blowing hot and cold, they've done well, but they've also not necessarily got a lot of bench production. And that's where the Sixers are going to have an issue, because they don't produce enough from their role players in that team. So your starting five really is the be-all and end-all in that team. And if they're not performing, then you're left with, asking questions. Should we have let go of all of the pieces that we did in order to get a Jimmy Butler? I must say, I think they had to.
They had to. There was no way they were gonna get Jimmy Butler without getting rid of two significant players in Robert Covington and Dario Saric. But still, look, I still think they have what it takes. But like you said, the bench, because their starting five is solid. Without
question.
It's the bench production that comes into play. But I think. Don't you think this is early in the season? That can be something that can be identified and worked on?
Exactly, and I think this is where the front office has to really do their job. That they've got to go out there, try and find a couple of players. When you look at somebody like Kyle Korver, who's literally just sitting around in Cleveland not doing much, he's the kind of guy who the Sixers could really do with. And then there could be a couple of other guys in terms of the power forward space that could actually do a job for them as well. Because I don't know if Wilson Chandler really is the answer to them trying to move forward as they try to chase.
He might be the wrong Chandler.
You might be right. You might be right. There was something else that happened though that was really, really big this week, and that was LeBron James passing the great Wilt Chamberlain in the all-time scoring charts in the NBA. And that's a heck of a feat.
Indeed, Cyrus, it is a heck of a feat. First of all, you got to look at the circumstances in which it happened. It's not like it's a game where he scored 10 points and 11 rebounds and 4 assists. It was a 44-point double-double game, which was almost a triple-double game for LeBron James. And now it gives him 31,425 points, right?
It's a lot of points.
And the next person up is his royal goatness himself, Michael Jordan.
His royal goatness.
His royal goatness, who's got 32,292 points, right? Now that gives him just under 1,000 points to catch Michael. Now, for his career so far, LeBron James has been averaging just over 2,000 points, about 2,060 points a season. So, if that's anything to go by, if he continues playing at this level, by the end of this season, he will have passed Michael Jordan. And he'll be heading in the Kobe Bryant spot at the third. And if you look at it, he's got about 7,000 points before he catches Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. If
7,000 points.
7,000.
I mean, the man is not 12 years old, so
7,000 points. Okay, let's look at it. How many more seasons do we give LeBron James?
Well, how old is he now? What, 34?
33, 34. He will be 34 at the end of the year.
I mean, playing at the highest level, maybe another 3 seasons max?
Another 3 seasons, which means he can put up 6,500 points, which won't put him too far behind
to get to the top.
It won't be enough to get to the point, but if he plays until he's 40, like what Vince Carter did.
But we're also saying this is LeBron James performing at the peak of his powers.
No, because if he averages for the next 3 seasons 2,000
points a season,
it'll be 6,000. So he'll be like almost 1,000 behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
So you're saying,
to tell me
next 3 years he's just gonna ball out of his socks.
He's gonna ball out of his socks, and then that'll make him like 37. Then the other 3 years, you mean to tell me he can't score 1,500 points in 3 years?
It's possible, but I think maybe he's got other priorities. Maybe he's not chasing Kareem. The idea that he could is
everybody's chasing Kareem, Cyrus. Even you're chasing Kareem. You just don't know it. You just don't know it. Now, but look, realistically, Cyrus, we know he potentially will pass Michael Jordan this season. He might even pass Kobe Bryant next season. But the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, even the Carmelo is achievable at 36,928. But the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 38,387. it's achievable, but it's a tall order.
I just don't see it. He's the kind of player who could, if there was anybody who could, it's LeBron James.
LeBron. Oh, Steph Curry.
No, Steph Curry would have to have started doing some crazy ass stuff. But anyway, we're not even going to go there. We love LeBron. We love what he's done, and more power to him. And passing Wilt Chamberlain is a heck of a feat.
Heck of a feat.
A person who won't be passing Wilt Chamberlain is Carmelo Anthony, who happens to be 19th on the list of all-time scorers in the NBA.
Yes, I mean, look, Carmelo Anthony had a fantastic entry into the season. I mean, he is from the same draft class as LeBron James.
Yeah.
With Dwayne Wade. So, he's had an interesting career. He really blew up, if you will, in Denver with the Nuggets. Then, obviously, he had his time there and decided New York was the spot.
Got to go home.
And New York didn't quite work out for him. And, he had he even spent a second in Atlanta. He had an Atlanta jersey, but he was like,
they made the jersey. He never wore it. He was in Atlanta for like 27 days on the books. On the books. I don't even know if he even stopped off there, in person. But I think the thing, though, is that obviously Carmelo Anthony being released by the Houston Rockets very early into his 1-year deal with them.
10 games in, Cyrus. 10 games in.
It says a lot about where they think he is. And I think that, we're not judging. I mean, we're not judging much, in the sense that, but it says a lot about where he is in his career. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And there are a lot of new tricks to be learned in the NBA.
Absolutely.
And that's on the defensive and offensive end. So we're not sure where he's going to end up. In fact, I don't even know if we can speculate on that because goodness knows.
No, I mean, it's a little too early, but it's worth mentioning because, I mean, he's one of those franchise players, if you will. Yeah. He was a franchise player in New York. I mean, even when he joined the Rockets, he was one of the big players.
You've got
Chris
a lot of hype.
You got James Harden, the MVP. You got Chris Paul, then you got him.
Yeah.
Even when he stopped off at OKC for a little bit, it was him, Russell Westbrook, and Paul George.
He's always been, in fact, crazily the third or fourth wheel in these vehicles.
Yeah.
And I think this is the thing, is that Melo needs to find himself in a space where he's able to just play his game. The thing is, I don't think that there are many more opportunities for him to join championship-chasing teams. And I think that's where the change has come. He might be able to join a team like, let me say it, the Atlanta Hawks.
All right.
But he's not going to take them to the mountaintop, And I think this is also something that he might have to come to terms with. And it's a very tough wake-up call.
Look, recently I got a reality check because you can write off certain people.
That's true.
A lot of people wrote off Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
Then he was like, let me show you what a 50-point game looks like.
That's true.
And I think sometimes that kind of a turn in your life, okay, and you've seen Derrick Rose since that 50-point game. He's been a very different Derrick Rose. Mentally, spiritually, just the way he's outlook.
Yeah, the hunger is back.
That could happen to Melo. We hope it does.
Yeah, well, let's see.
We're big fans.
So to round off today's podcast, we're going to talk about our African performers of the past week. And I think we've got to start with somebody who won the NBA's Player of the Week award, and that's Pascal Siakam for the Toronto Raptors. What a player this young man is.
Look, Pascal Siakam was on the continent for Basketball Without Borders Africa 2018, as well as the NBA Africa game, the third one. So he's no stranger to us. We spent some time speaking to him. Great Cameroonian guy.
Yeah.
Inspired by the likes of Luke Mbamute. One thing I got to give you about Pascal Siakam, even when I spoke to him, I told him I like his hustle.
Yeah.
And
he works hard.
If you look on our profile, we say he's got next. He's going to be one of the most inspiring, big men in the league at the moment. Playing in Toronto alongside fellow Africans, OG Anunoby and Serge Ibaka, playing alongside Kawhi Leonard and Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, Jonas Valanciunas. He's got a great team around him, averaging 14.1 points a game, 6.5 rebounds, and 2 assists.
His stats are speaking about a player who is really on the rise. And I love watching him play. Like you say, it's the hustle. He's not the kind of guy who just sits back. And you can see he's a sponge. Like, he's learning for everybody. In fact, what I'm loving seeing is that Kawhi Leonard is almost teaching him how to become Kawhi Leonard.
Now that you put it that way, I like how that sounds.
Yeah, he could be the Kawhi Leonard of Cameroon.
Oh, wow.
We're putting that out there. We're putting that out there. So one of our other African performers that we love watching is obviously the big guy, another Cameroonian, Joel Embiid.
Joel the Process Embiid. Cyrus, I don't know what more I can say about this young man. I mean, he's averaging a double-double.
Sing his praises.
He's dominating almost any big man in the paint. I can't think of any big man who goes up against Joel Embiid and says, this is an easy day at the office.
It's never going to be. Sweat pouring from before you even hit the hardwood.
Cyrus. And I'm a sneakerhead. He just got a sneaker deal with Under Armour.
Yeah.
He's having a great season.
He really is. In fact, it looks like his career is blossoming. And he's averaging 27.6 points per game, 13.4 rebounds a game. His block shots, averaging 2.1 blocks per game.
That's not shabby even by my standards, Cyrus.
So, when you look at it, he could be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. Mm-hmm. He could also just be in the running for MVP, which is what I think we've been talking about a lot recently.
Well, you and Boo Shongwei seem to think he might, make it onto that list, but you know who my choice is for the potential African MVP. And that's our next top African performer, none other than the Nigerian Targaryen.
Oh, yes.
Giannis
Antetokounmpo. Great player.
Also averaging a double-double.
Yes, he is.
Dominating almost every game he plays in.
And that's the kind of player that he is. That's why people have got their eyes on him, just checking him out to see exactly what he's going to do next. He's so tough to stop, because where do you even stop Giannis?
I was about to say, so like Cyrus, you've watched Space Jam, right?
Yes.
Wow, the first mention of Space Jam on our podcast. But have you noticed how his arm seems to extend like that Michael Jordan's Space Jam arm? I mean, in the paint. He needs. Let me look at something he needs to work on first. Right?
Yeah,
he needs to work on that 3-point shot, and I think like the Bucks GM said, pretty soon that 3-point shot is coming, and then everybody best be scared.
That is true.
But he's got a decent mid range.
Yes,
and his preferred shot is Euro stepping to that rim and going past anybody standing there or around somebody or over somebody.
He's just flying past you.
I mean, you can ask who's the New York Knicks forward?
Tim Hardaway Jr.
Tim Hardaway Jr.
He watched a man fly right over
him. How it feels to have a man fly right over you. But he's averaging 0.8 points per game, Cyrus. 12.7 rebounds, 5.6 assists. And he's the kind of player, if you ask me, with the Milwaukee Bucks, who will wind up leading in 5 major categories like he's done in the past.
He's done it before.
And he can be one of the only players who can be in the top 20 in those 5 major categories. I'm talking blocks, I'm talking steals, I'm talking assists, we're talking rebounds and points, of course. And he just brings so much to the game. I think he should be an inspiration to most African players in the league at the moment. I think I'm gonna put it out there. You heard it first on Post Up. He's a future Hall of Famer, and if you will, Hakeem Olajuwon of the future.
Ooh.
I'm putting it on him.
That's big stuff.
You're putting
You're putting that stuff on his shoulders. But you know what? I don't know if I can disagree with you.
One day Giannis is going to be he's a
Hall of Famer. You can see
he also wears the 3-4. No. Like Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon, if you will.
Just keeping it real.
But I think
Giannis is that guy. He's got the potential. He's got the skill. In fact, he's doing it right now. If he continues with his career the way it is, Hall of Fame, here we come.
Absolutely.
In fact, Hall of Fame, here we come, and we mean that in terms of we've come to the end of the Post Up podcast. It's been another great one. We're going to be back next week. We're going to be talking about a few other issues, and we might even do a special edition because we happen to do a sit down with none other than the president of basketball operations at the Toronto Raptors, Masai Ujiri.
Oh yeah, what a great sit down.
Yeah, it was really, really great.
Great insight, and I think we're gonna have some sound bites from our interview with him, and he's got some great insights on Africa, on the Toronto Raptors,
and the business of sports.
And the business of sports. So I think that's gonna be exciting. Look out for that next week.
That's it. Thank you for listening.